All right, well, hello, Life Group leaders. Welcome back to Before the Lesson with me, Jonathan Bowman. This week, our lessons are in Second Chronicles chapter 36, if you're doing the Gospel Project, and then Explore the Bible is going to be in Micah chapter 4 and chapter 5. So, again, I just want to share one biblical insight and one a point of application for each passage. Also, wanted to share a new resource. Or a resource that I use quite frequently, and that's this commentary on the New Testament. It's the use of the Old Testament. And what I like about this is when we're going through Old Testament passages, I can flip through the back, look up the Old Testament passage, and see when it may be quoted or even alluded to within the New Testament. So make sure there's always maybe if I needed an extra gospel tie-in. Well, having used that resource, here are the few things I found with the Gospel Project, Second Chronicles chapter 36. Of course, you have the language of the abomination of desolation, and also the use of God sending his prophets because he's merciful. As regards to the abomination of desolation, sometimes I think we take phrases in the Bible, and especially if we view them as prophetic, and we try to narrow them down way too far as to probably what the biblical context means. And really, anything that would have corrupted temple worship or the worship of God's people would have been an abomination, which causes desolation. It's not necessarily, Antiochus Epiphanes or anything like that, but rather anything that desecrates the temple. Jesus uses this language in Mark chapter 12 and 13, and Jesus uses temple language about him. And the interesting thing is, if you're looking for the maximal abomination of desolation, it would be the destruction of the temple itself. And so to reject Jesus Christ, to crucify Jesus Christ, to reject him, is to create the ultimate act of abomination which causes desolation. And so I think as you're looking through Second Chronicles chapter 36, make sure you read through Mark 12 and 13, because I think there's a lot of points of application there. Another thing that I think we need to speak about is God using the nations. God uses the nations to execute his judgment. And a point of application I would take out of that is this: just because God is using you doesn't mean that you know him or that you're walking with him. God uses lost people, God uses lost things, pagan things, sinful things all the time to achieve his purposes. So make sure that can be a bit of a warning maybe to some of your audience. In regards to the Explore the Bible curriculum, Micah chapter 4, 6 through 8 and 5, 1 through 9, it talks about peace and security coming through God. And Micah 5 is used and quoted quite clearly in Matthew chapter 2, verse 6, and also in John whenever Jesus says, I am the good shepherd. So whenever they're talking about shepherding and Jesus being the good shepherd, it's alluding to, and actually Matthew chapter 2, verse 6 cites Micah 5. Now, it doesn't cite it exactly. It quotes Micah 5 in a way that's very midrashic. So it's an exegetical way, a Hebrew exegetical way to get across or broaden kind of the application of Micah 5. But when we talk about shepherding, I think a point of application we can make, of course, if Jesus is the good shepherd and the church are his people, his sheep, then we should have this sense of peace and security that come through having a walk with Jesus Christ as we obey and live for Jesus Christ. And then also I think it applies once again to leaders this week, that leaders as co-shepherds with Jesus Christ, under shepherds, but co-shepherds through Jesus Christ, that we need to make sure that we're providing that sense of peace and security and guidance that our flock deserves. So anyway, so those are some quick biblical insights and points of application for this week. I hope video number 2 is even more helpful to you. Feel free to give any feedback, and y'all have a blessed week and enjoy preparing for your lesson.